So as long as it doesn't have immune to fire, I can basically do whatever expedition mods. Boom. It's quite satisfying. And then boom, I love it. So like, look at this. I can read shit. I can read shit and not worry about monsters killing me. Okay. So the basic premise is we are playing Herald of Ash Worm Explosions using Discharge. 90% of my damage is coming from Herald of Ash, which is using worms to explode with Discharge, which gives massive overkill damage. So the general map playstyle is I put worms down with summon skeletons, and then I blink to it and I kill all the worms, and then I get a whole bunch of charges from killing the worms, and then in the packs I blow them up with Discharge. And during boss fights.
Skeletons.
So, why the skeletons? Right. So, we're using this belt here, which says when your minions are summoned, they use your flask on summon, right?
Yep.
And you see, I've got 5 worm flasks, and I'm summoning 2 skeletons. So that means both those skeletons will use 2 doses of these worm flasks, right?
Yeah.
The belt inherently kind of stops you from running your own flask, which I would very much like to use flask, but yeah, this belt kind of breaks the charges. I mean, you could maybe get like some charges in, but it'd just be very small, inconsistent amount because every time you summon skeletons, your charges get used, and it's just a pain. And I'd prefer to go 5. Anyway, I actually make use of all 20 worms that come out because there's 2 skeletons. Yep. Each we're using 2 doses, and there's 2 times 5 plus, which is 10 per skeleton, so 20, yep. 20 worms per cast of skeletons, right?
Yeah.
And the way I take advantage of it and cover the opportunity costs of not having any other flasks is a couple of things. Firstly, we have this ring here, which gives you adrenaline on kill. Adrenaline's just a really nice global damage increase, right?
Yeah.
And you get movement speed as well. So covering off the fact that I don't have Quicksilver is some movement speed here, but I also get some movement speed from other places.
Is that similar to how Onslaught works? That's a dumb
Yes.
question from me.
It's kind of similar. Yeah,
okay.
it is similar. You get attack, cast, and movement speed, which is just like Onslaught, except adrenaline comes with 100% increased damage, global damage, and 10 fizz damage reduction. And the attack speed, cast speed, and move speed is slightly higher as well.
Yeah.
But I've actually got Onslaught and Q on my boots here. And another big part of what you can take advantage of to cover off the opportunity cost, even though it's a bit gimmicky, you can weapon swap to this axe here. Just at the start of the map, bear with me. Just at the start of the map, you weapon swap to it and start the rampage, and then you don't have to worry about it again, because if you're blinking around on skeletons, you're always gonna have the rampage stacks continuing.
Hang on, sorry, why the weapon swap? I didn't quite catch that.
Why the weapon swap? This weapon here has rampage innately on it.
Oh,
which is really cool.
Okay.
Rampage actually continues through even if you don't have the weapon equipped.
Yeah.
Similar to a lot of item mechanics that stay on even if you don't have the weapon equipped. So, but yeah, you don't even have to do that. Honestly, the movement speed's not horrible.
How are you sustaining your worm flask?
Yes. Okay. So, big part of it is this Pantheon here, which is kind of a little bit broken in this interaction with the belt, because you're not actually using flasks because the skeletons are using them. You always have that 3 life charges.
Oh, of course, yeah. Okay.
Which is kind of really cool gimmicky interaction, which I think GG eventually will probably remove because they don't like worms. But another part of it is this one here, replenishing remedies, which obviously is like the classic. Whenever you're using worms, you kind of have this one.
Oh, okay.
Which is just a whole bunch of life and mana, which obviously hybrid flask gets both. So and then also a lot of my cluster jewels. So yeah, here's a really cool one here. Fasting is really nice because you get a whole bunch of charges gained, but 90% of builds, or 90, I'd say 99% of builds that use fasting don't get to take advantage of the other mod, which is 10% increase in movement speed while under no flask effect. This is how we recover a bit of the opportunity cost. This other one here is actually kind of better than fasting. It's only 10% gain, but you get 24% damage over time. In Herald of
Yeah.
Ash, you need a lot of damage over
Oh,
time
you
to
said
scale
that
up.
it scaled off that, yeah.
So Discharge, really powerful spell that
Yep.
has a 2-second cooldown. So it's kind of annoying to
Yeah.
cast unless there's a duel that makes it shorter cooldown but way less damage. But we're trying to get essentially the biggest hit possible because in theory we want to create the biggest overkill damage on a worm as possible. And Discharge is basically the go-to um, as like big
Big
hitting
hit.
skill.
Yeah.
Yep, because it has so many requirements to make it strong, such as needing the charges in the first place, and also you got to build around the cooldown. So the charges is a really big thing, right? And if anyone's ever played Discharge, will know that charge sustain can be hard and is usually quite a high investment cost to get good charge sustain. In this build, I'm actually leveraging the worms um, as well to also not just do the Herald of Ash but also do the charges. So
Hmm.
in this league in particular is what's kind of enabling this build is the fact that you can take advantage of these jewels here. So the red dream, which says
Oh, yes, I saw this in the build of the week thing. They were using this. Sorry, go on.
yeah, no, but this one's actually a different variation. But
Yep.
the build of the week was taking advantage of the fact that tattoos work so well with these jewels.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I'm actually taking advantage of is these are the different versions which give you charges on kill, right?
Yep.
And you actually don't even need much charge on kill at all with 20 worms per cast
So it doesn't
to
matter
get.
what sort of charge. It can be like endurance, charge, power, or
Well, I
frenzy.
have this one for endurance, and then
Okay.
I have this one of it. This one here does power
Yep.
charges.
Okay.
And so the reason why tattoos enable these is because it says um, passives granting elemental res in a radius, right? And so tattoos you can convert to
Yeah. To
res
infinitely res.
and then
Yeah.
make the tattoos give the chance, which is huge.
Yeah, that
And also
is.
this big one over here. And
Ah.
I had all these converted before, but I realized that I was having way too much chance. I don't need as much, and I didn't need to waste all these passive
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
traveling.
So you've kind of
Yep.
min-maxed it a
I've
bit.
already got it to a point where like every time I press, I'll
I
have
cannot do
full
this yet.
charges, and as long as
Yeah.
I for frenzies,
So what's
I
your
don't have
max cap set at currently? Power charges or endurance charges?
so endurance is 7, power charge is 4, and in frenzies is 4. So
Yep. Okay.
for frenzies, I was frenzies. I'm solely using blood rage, which has 25% chance on kill. So it's pretty
Oh,
low, but I'm
okay.
only needing 4, and it's
Yeah.
basically
It just
you can
adds.
see every time every time it's basically always full. You can see like I'll do
Yeah.
it a couple times,
Plenty.
and it's like consistent. It's not like oh it's on kill percent load chance that it's not going to happen every time. No, it happens basically every time.
Yep.
So that's the charges sorted. Like as long as you're hitting packs of discharges, you can't always have charges
Yeah.
because you're
Yep.
always killing essentially. But I do like to travel around with Frostblink. Oh, so the cool thing about Frostblink, by the way,
Yep.
is that where is it? It gets huge amount of cooldown reduction per enemy in the area, right? So
Yeah. You have to blink into
it's
packs.
instant, right? So I can press summon skeletons, and because it's instant, I can kind of override the animation of summon skeletons, and
Oh,
it will
places.
pull up all
Yeah.
the worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I it's like a combo, and it's basically quick travel, and you can see that it's like very smooth, like very
Yeah.
reliable. I can just as long as
Yeah.
you have attack in place, it's very consistent. It's quite nice, and then I just travel around like that, and so I can just make sure that I don't have to think about it. I will always have charges.
So
And it's
when you mentioned this, was it last night or something? You said that there's a bit of like a kind of a rotation to like playing
yeah.
this.
So
Is
my
that what you're
mapping
referring to?
rotation, I like yes, exactly right. So I like to just blink around like this, and then press discharges in the mobs, and not worry about placing worms unless it's like an expedition pack, which I'll put some worms down before I
Yeah.
blow it up. I don't need the worms there because discharge itself in POB does about 4 million. If you're coming across anything harder, you just go skeletons, flammability, boom, or you can just go skeletons, boom. You don't
Yeah.
really need flammability except for like bosses. If you want to one shot the bosses, you go boom, 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 done. And
That
I
makes
just like to
sense.
quickly say that how this build started
Yeah.
was the idea was that I actually kind of wanted to use this explosion node here as
Yep.
the source of the overkill damage, and then use worms to trigger this. However,
Oh, yes, yes, I recall.
yeah. So, but this passive is kind of cool, really cool actually. The explosion's a
5%
lot
though.
bigger than it's only 5%, but especially when you got worms,
Hmm.
um, the worm's life is actually incorrect in PoE In PoE it says that worms have like 20k life or
Yep.
thereabouts, right? They have nothing close to that. I believe the ailment threshold of the worms is similar to that of a 20k life monster, which is where I think they pull that figure from.
Okay.
You
So,
kill a worm with like a really low level skill, like a dot skill,
yeah.
because obviously the worms are destroyed on hit. But you can see with a dot skill that they only have about like 500 HP. So essentially,
That times
theoretically,
500 isn't
any
that
overkill
much.
damage you have,
Yeah.
no, but yeah, but in terms of overkill using discharge, like that, the
Heaps.
entire damage is the overkill essentially.
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Um, but this node is still really nice
Oh, yeah, actually, I
for
just realized you're still
training.
using this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still really good because you kill any mobs around it, and then those mobs with decent health overkill, right? And then their
Oh,
overkill
okay, so you're
trigger
getting a bit of
more
a
Herald of Ashes,
explosion
and you can see how it
drain.
chains.
Yeah.
The Herald of Ash works really well with this node. It
Hmm.
just makes the clear nuts. Like if you kill a rare, everything around it will with Herald of Ash will just like disintegrate. Doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah. What are the other
Uh,
ascendancies?
so these two here are just like this one
Oh,
here
yeah.
is whole bunch of resistance, which is actually really good because to make discharge really strong, I'm using this stuff here,
Okay.
which is annihilating light, which says 60%
That
reduced.
was that was not where I thought that was gonna go. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, we're kind of
I thought
jumping
we
in
were
the.
going defensive then, and you're just like, so the staff.
Yeah, well, no, I was just explaining why this passive here, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. No, so
this one
go
here.
on.
So
Why the staff?
basically, the entire reason why you go chieftain
Yeah.
is for this one here, which is um, really powerful. So you just get a whole bunch of max res. You can use
Yeah.
totals here. You can have ones on your boot. I haven't min maxed it, but you can get two on your boots.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and then you get a bunch from the tree as well. And in total, I have 89 at the moment. If I had one more on the boots, I would have max, which
Yeah.
is 9. So
So what was the
really
staff?
powerful.
Sorry.
Annihilating light. So it says 60% reduce elemental reses, which is disgustingly large amount of. So this is the only source. Well, possibly one of the only. There might be another one that I can't think of, but of a elemental resistance multiplier, as in it's actually
Yeah, that's a
reducing.
huge
It's
cost.
not a negative. It's not a negative flat amount. It's literally reducing. So if I have 100 all res, it's reduced by 60. I literally have 40
Yeah,
all res
yeah, that's
instead.
brutal.
So you have to get massive overcap, and I do that with both purity of elements
Yep.
and
Period of
purity
fire.
of fire. And so
Yeah.
purity of fire I already want to use anyway because of the max res.
Yep.
So that's nice. Purity of elements, is not essential, but it's really convenient that I'm using it just because it makes you all immune to all ailments. Another thing cool about purity elements is that it enables the Watcher's Eye mod. So you can imagine with all this max res, you really want as much physical as taken as elemental as possible. And to do
Yes.
that without the shield slot, you really need shit like this Watcher's Eye here, which has 10% as extra. You can
Wow.
actually roll up
Yeah,
to 3 of these mods,
that's
but I've got
nice.
2 here, one for Purity of Fire, one for Purity of Elements. So this is basically as cheap as you can get a Watcher's Eye that doesn't cost like a mirror.
Yeah, yeah, that's
You know.
nice. Yep.
And so in total, I have these two, 50% from this and 8% from here, and also this timeless jewel down here. I'm getting 5% here, 5% here, and
Yep.
then a little bit of burn damage here. It's really good something to talk about Herald of Ash and how it scales. So Herald of Ash says burns you inflict with this are only affected by modifiers to damage over time. These passives are huge. So this one here gives you 80% damage over time for Herald of Ash, unless it's bugged.
Yep.
You have 50 here, 50 and then 30, and they both damage over time mods, so they should both work. This one here, I'm actually not 100% sure if the damage rod works. I'm assuming it would because it's literally a herald skill,
Mm.
and um, but by the description of the gem, theoretically it shouldn't work for Herald of Ash because it says only damage over time mods, and Herald damage is not a damage over time mod, but like it makes no sense that it wouldn't work. I don't know, it's kind of complicated, but the point is the AoE is still really nice anyway, even if the damage doesn't
Oh
work.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it was actually only a recent change that damage over time multiplier works for Herald of Ash. It was bugged where it didn't work until 3.19, and they fixed it so that damage over time multiplier works. So
Yep.
now you can actually get decent damaging Herald of Ashes, but you really have to know what scales it and assume that POB is wrong to actually get a good DPS going. POB, just because of how complicated it is to calculate, I'm going to guess that it's around 20 mil.
Yeah, okay, so
And
comfortable.
unfortunately, yeah, very comfortable. And that's without, I've still got quite a few more upgrades to go. I think it could quite easily hit the dot cap.
The amulet you had on, what is that amulet?
This one. Oh, this is a new one where it's um, you gain a bunch of your unreserved life when you're before you're hit, which is kind of cool. So if the hit would kill you, you gain it before. So it's quite
Sorry, my
strong.
brain has to process that for a second. So, missing unreserved life
Hmm.
before being hit by an enemy.
Yeah, essentially means like if you get hit by small hits, um, that is less than 30% of your missing amount, then they'll be healing you, and you can see it's very hard to die, especially to
Oh,
those.
okay. That, oh man, that is.
It's very powerful. So, and the cool thing about that is that I'm taking advantage of this, which I think is actually quite broken tattoo. This one here, it says um,
Ah,
4% recovery rate of life, mana,
yeah,
and energy fluid um, per tribe, and I've tried to stack like almost all the tribes. I've got like some one ofs which I'm not even using for my build really, just so
just to stack
I
that.
can just to stack that. And obviously I'm
Right.
doubling it with tattoo jewel here, which is helping me double the max one. And so another cool one that I'm taking advantage of is um, barracks respite. Now most of the time people are using this ring for the ignite, which is what I am doing as well.
Mm.
However, the the shock. So worms have a innate attribute where they are killed on hit, right?
Yep.
And what this means, and they leave no corpse. This
Yeah, they're
means that
destroyed.
things like proliferation does not work because proliferation requires a corpse.
Yep.
Um, however, this ring's actually slightly different. It doesn't proliferate, even though it's kind of similar.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what this means is that shocked enemies on kill. So when I kill a worm next to a boss, just like my other build,
I
I'm
cannot do this
spreading
yet.
a 50% shock because my discharge is hitting with like huge, huge amounts of damage, and
Yeah,
some of that is
yeah.
lightning because of the power charges, and I'm critting. Then that shock is spread to the boss. Once again, full shock on the boss, regardless of their HP.
I'm
Just due to
impressed
character
that you've.
swipe. And that this ring alone, and this actually takes some testing because what I've tested is that
Yeah,
the ignite portion of this doesn't work, but it has the visuals that it does. So here's the weird thing, right? So
that's weird.
you can theoretically the ignite should spread on the worms with this ring because the shock does and it's not proliferating.
Yeah.
However, I think it's hard coded. The worms are hard coded to not have ailments or something. I don't know, or not to have damaging ailments because they have the visuals. Um, they don't they don't actually they don't spread from the worms, but you can spread to the worms. So if I hit a big ignite and kill a rare
Yeah.
with a single target skill, and then it can spread to the worms and the worms will die. If I hit a worm with the ignite, it will inflict the animation on all the worms, but none of them will die and none of them will take damage. Anyway, I just tipped that down to GGG trying to prevent gimmicks of some
Prevent
sort.
you.
Something is
I
that
feel like you could double the length of the worm wiki page, honestly.
yeah, probably. But the shock it by itself is enough to justify wearing this ring, right?
Yeah.
But the ignite's really important, the spread, because that lets us chain the explosions. Obviously, the discharge I'm doing, I've not really scaled ignite at all, and the ignite damage is pity. It's like
Yeah.
200,
Yeah.
200,000,
Incidental.
which is not much at all. It's maybe enough to spread to some weaker monsters and kill them. But
Yeah.
really, the ignite part that I'm trying to spread is the explosions ignite, and that's what changed to the other explosions, which caused the Herald of Ash to blow up everything. So essentially,
Uh.
and what actually is important here is that ignited enemies, that it only spreads on ignited enemies that are killed. And this is very important because I'm trying to not kill worms without anything except for discharge, right? So if I had any source of ignite proliferation, which I've specifically avoided, then what would happen is I would ignite the boss, and then I'd try to put worms around the boss, and then the worms would all die because the boss's ignites being prolified to the worms.
Yeah.
So this is technically not prolifing, so it won't, it would only prolif when the thing's killed.
Yeah.
So it kind of fixes this. So I don't want worms to die
I
unless I'm
cannot do
either
this
frost
yet.
blinking or discharging, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
that means
For the
to
overkill.
use righteous fire, I also have to have it linked to brutality, which is what I actually worked out today. I mean, I kind of always knew that, but it slipped my mind, and I was like, oh, I can't use righteous fire, bugger, because I didn't want the
Sorry.
righteous
Sorry.
fire
Just
to kill the
quick
worms.
rundown of brutality for me. Sorry.
So brutality says it's a support. You deal more physical damage. Don't care about that.
Yeah.
Support skills deal no elemental damage.
Ah.
So what I'm doing, unfortunately, doesn't stop the burn, but it does. It doesn't stop the self burn, but it stops the worms from dying. You can see here that worms don't die to righteous fire. So
I just noticed you had Fizz to fire damage on your Helm Enchanted, which makes sense because of your
yes,
res. Is there any other? What's your Herald of Ash 75 mana res?
yes. So the helm slots where I'm getting the discharge damage.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where I've got a bunch of, basically you can slightly make this slightly better. I've not got the best rolls,
Yeah.
but it was quite expensive. I've actually got a new one at the moment, but I'm getting I need to get the lab enchant on it. So
Yeah. Okay.
chilling presence here is what's enabling hypothermia. So um, I I need to chill worms without hitting them, essentially, because the hypothermia damage only applies if the thing is chilled, and it doesn't apply retroactively. So you have to chill it before it takes the damage, and worms are blown up in one hit, right?
Yeah.
So I have to find a way to chill the worms without hitting them, and that's how I'm doing it with this one single passive here.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of cool. You can actually get a cluster jewel that has chilling presence and brood for potency, which is what I'll get refine it and get those two instead, and then have a jewel socket here. Essentially, just got
Usual.
Purity of
Usual.
Elements, Herald of Ash, Purity of Fire, and that's all I've got at the moment.
So you
So that's
literally got like no defensive auras. How much life you got?
I've got yeah 4K life.
Okay.
However, I've got literally 88% fizz as elemental.
Yeah. So you basically just
I
full
basically don't
relying
need
on
any
that.
armor. Like small hits
I
don't
cannot do
really
this yet.
kill me, and if it can't kill me, then I'll just end up getting full life again with this end out here. So this ring is kind of really cool because it enables both the clearing and the boss single target damage, and it
Yeah.
also is my bleed, because bleeding is very painful. So look at this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Nice.
the whole reason why I'm using flammability is for this ignite, and spreading that ignite. The reason why is because
I cannot do
I'm a
this
crit
yet.
build. The explosion doesn't crit, and I haven't got basically any sources of ignite chance, and I could
Yep.
take some, but I really don't want to waste. All my passives are really important, so I don't want to waste it. And so I want my explosion to ignite so that can spread. So to do that, I'm relying basically on just the flammability itself, that ignite chance plus the anomalous, divergent extra 20,
Yeah.
have 45% chance to ignite. So not all the explodes will ignite, but the ones that do will. And then obviously that curse is spread to all monsters with Hex Bloom. The shocking spread is beautiful. Like
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
it goes through the whole pack. It's beautiful. This jewel here, this rare jewel is very important. 8% chance to gain phasing on kill. So that's very important because Discharge's cooldown
I cannot do this yet.
is so long. What often happens is I just go walk through the pack. You can see the 8% chance only, but I basically get it every single time.
Mm.
I do eventually plan to min-max this and maybe fit in another aura. Another thing you could do for more damage, but I'm seriously run out of button spaces here, is you can get Call to Arms and use Infernal Cry, which gives Ash. And currently, I actually have no source of Ash, and that is a huge damage boost because you can give Ash to the worms, which kind of double dips, right? Because the worms take 20% increase, and the boss takes 20% increase. The worms get overkilled, and then the Herald of Ash is boosted by the worms Ash and the boss Ash, essentially.
Ah, yes.
Kind of double dips.
Yep.
Theoretically, Shock would double dip too, but I'm just not sure about, like I said, the spreading. But yeah, that's kind of the build. And
Not bad.
someone on Reddit posted the idea of using this for Discharge and worms, and I was like, ooh,